What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another weekly episode of our football podcast. I'm going to bring in my good pal, Mr. Improv Pete, to help me get through this show.
Hey, how's it going?
Amazing.
It sounds amazing.
It is. Everything's amazing. So, little different week now because obviously fantasy football can only go so far.
That is correct.
There are some options for daily fantasy challenges, etc., but we'll get into that in a little bit. We do have a couple football games, and we've got, I guess, some fantasy awards we could give out.
Oh, definitely got to give out some awards today. And of course, talk to you guys about the playoff challenges and what we think. Also, recap a bunch of games from last week. A lot of teams surprisingly did not make it in. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. But of course, we come to you live every Thursday at 6:30 over on Facebook, on Twitter, and on the YouTubes. So make sure you like, subscribe, follow, all that fun jazz. Be a part of the chat. Jump in. Are you going to agree with me and Jay Rush today? Probably not. But we'll see. We're gonna have some fun here. But let's so where do you want to start? You want to talk about last week and
Let's
what we
start with
have
last
going on
week.
with the games?
We'll start with last week and make our way in so that when people get in and get situated, they could give us their thoughts too,
This green
etc.
screen is not cooperating today. That's all I know.
That's a normal weekly occurrence. Maybe you're getting the snow in already, or snow that's coming.
I don't know what the fuck that did, but I think that made it work.
There you go.
So what'd you say? I'm sorry, I was fucking with that a little bit.
Oh, were you? I didn't notice. We'll start with last week so we can set up the playoffs.
All right, so let's talk about a couple of games. I want to shout out the Colts.
Yeah, they
Not
did a
so much
great,
anymore
great job. Put their best foot
against
forward.
the Jags, of course. Jags upsetting everybody this season. Let me tell you.
Yeah, we'll talk the important games. So obviously that was a big one. Colts held their key to their destiny and flopped horribly. There's not even anything you can really say about that game. They scored 11 points in a must-win game. Like I can't tell you much about it. Jacksonville's getting the number one pick, so they got to play spoiler. Didn't win if they lost. They were getting the number one, so good on them. Playing tough,
hmm
spoiling the Colts season. Colts haven't won a game in Jacksonville, I think, in 6 years now, which is also extremely pathetic. I know the Jaguars haven't been this terrible, but they've been terrible the last 3 years, and they're in your division, and that means once a year you have to go to Jacksonville, and you can't beat them.
Just can't get it done.
House of Horrors, apparently.
Oh,
Like
second.
it's real tough going into those warmer weather climates during the winter. Like it's very rough. I can see how rough it is. Like the sun must have been in Carson Wentz's eyes or something. I don't know what was going on. Could have
Well, did
could
you
have
see
been.
that the news report says that Russell Wilson, wow, Carson Wentz, he didn't confirm nor deny that he might be coming back next year.
Oh well. I don't think he's retiring just yet, but I think that's mostly up to the team to confirm or deny first if he's coming back or not, and then
That
they
is
go from
true. Do
there.
you think that he might be in this quarterback shuffle that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks now?
Certainly could be. I mean, I it's hard to say because for the most part they had a good year until the back end of the season when they needed to win to get into playoffs.
Agreed.
So, you know, would you like to give it another go? You know, hopefully by this time next year we're not talking, the next strain of COVID and everything, and sports can be normal and not have your starting quarterback, come down with it, at the back end
Mhm.
of the season when you need to win games, something like that, that would be great where we didn't have to worry about all this. But again, for the most part, they started a little slow and then, they got in sync and they played well. But then again, when they needed to win, they couldn't.
That is
So
very fair.
definitely worth giving them another shot. But, I don't own the team, I don't run the team, etc. Is there better options in him? Maybe slight upgrades, but probably not. So I don't see why not.
I agree with that. I think that overall that team was very good. I mean, you had Pittman, who was very good. Of
Hmm.
course, Jonathan Taylor, which we'll mention much later on the show. I guarantee you that, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
But
yeah, but Pittman fell off at the end, and was it because of Carson Wentz? Was it because of Pittman?
that
We don't know.
and that's also fair, and of course with COVID. So a lot of things going on over in Indianapolis. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason, at least I think, for uh that organization. And what also is a new organization is good old Judge is no longer in New York.
So where are you going with that? That you want the Giants to go sign Carson Wentz? What do you want? Who
No,
do you want?
absolutely not. But my next question to you would be: is Daniel Jones now the next in line to be booted? Are you
Uh,
taking offers?
it will be because they're going to bring in a new GM, and a new GM is not going to want Daniel Jones at this point.
So, how much? I was talking to a buddy at work today about how much the Giants should spend for a new quarterback. And he brought up Teddy Bridgewater and get him for like 1 year for 13 mil, which I don't think would be terrible.
Well, I'm going to open up something while I talk about this with you. There is uh issues to that, and that's what I'm pulling up.
Absolutely. Oh, there's always issues in football. Come on.
Yeah, of course, but this one is more. So for 20, okay, I'm just gonna click on every ad instead, even though I didn't click anywhere near it. Total cap space, which would inhibit you from signing or not signing a said quarterback. So the season's over, correct? For the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Starting next season, without cutting anybody, making any roster moves or whatever, the Giants are already almost 3 million over the cap. So if you're 3 million over the cap and you're giving Teddy Bridgewater 13 million, now you're 16 million over the cap.
Very fair.
So that would be pretty hard to come up with. I could go in depth and look at the roster and be like, hey, this is what they could do. But again, you're cutting those people and whatever else, you need to replace them still. So you still need to spend some money. You can't just, throw away money.
We have a comment. We have the Giants are going to be doing a fire sale.
The Giants need to do a fire sale. The problem being, like I said, is players like this. So you got Leonard Williams is a $27 million cap hit next year. James Bradbury, 21 million, 22 almost. Kenny Galladay, $21 million cap hit. So you've got four guys right there sitting at 70 million worth of cap space.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say, hey, you could cut them. If you cut Kenny Galladay, you actually lose $2 million. If you cut Leonard Williams, you lose $8 million in cap space because the way their contracts were signed. You could cut Bradbury and save 12 million. So yes, that could be your Teddy Bridgewater thing, but Bradbury is also probably their best cornerback. So is it worth it?
For the new GM to decide.
That's what's going to be the problem because they have a lot of guys. They got Andrew Thomas, their left tackle that they took in the first round a couple years ago. He's an $8 million cap hit, and if they cut him, he's a $19 million cap hit. So it's not great in Giants land. So being able to come up with money, looking at this is not going to be easy for this new GM. So he's definitely going to have his work cut out for him.
Well, we have better than spending the whole thing on your corners and clear out everything else.
But again, a lot of these guys, if you're cutting them, it's costing you more money. So, you're stuck with Kenny Galladay for the next at least couple seasons because
Give Jones a crap contract.
Yeah, Jones. I don't even know if his. Okay, Jones is under contract for next year. Jones is an $8 million cap hit, and if you cut him, it's an $8 million penalty. So if you're cutting Daniel Jones, you're saving $186,000.
Woo! Big money.
So that's not helping you in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, a lot of their guys, Blake Martinez, I could see him being cut. He's a $14 million cap hit. You'd save $9 million. He could be one. Logan Ryan could be one. And Kyle Rudolph. Those are the three that I could see.
But you're saying that the Giants could make some moves to lessen their cap hit.
If they made those moves, they would be at about 10 million under the cap from 3 million over. But still, that's not a lot of money that you're doing anything with. You're not getting a quarterback at that price. Maybe if you're trading for a quarterback who has a contract, then maybe. But if you're signing someone, that's not going to happen. And a lot of Giants fans online are all, hey, Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson. Where are you getting this money for Russell Wilson? Because even if you trade these guys, say you traded a Galladay, you still absorb part of that cap penalty. You don't get rewarded for giving somebody a bad contract if you're lucky enough to get rid of them. It's just the way the NFL works. So you still get penalties for trading somebody. And like I said, Galladay is a bigger cap hit by cutting him. Same thing with Leonard Williams. Was Leonard Williams worth $27.3 million? Probably not, but again, on a bad Giants team, he looks better than others. But again, if you cut him, you lose $8 million. So it's not worth it. You have to keep the guy.
Very fair, very fair. We'll keep in the NFC right now. Let's talk about the heartbreaking news that all you guys know we're going to talk about. Saints won. The Saints did their job. They beat Atlanta. However, the Rams did not beat the 49ers. Therefore, 49ers are in, Saints are out. Moment of silence.
What a heartbreaker.
And the thing that gets me is the Rams had that game the whole time. And Debo, let me tell you something, fantasy owners. If you have him, you keep him. If you can get him next year, you draft this motherfucker next year. I mean, it's terrible. Let me tell you something. And when it comes to the NFC, I hope every team loses, except for one. But that's just me. I hate every team with a very distinct reason why I hate all those teams, except for one. My boys over in Arizona.
Well, you better hope they avenge you and beat the Rams then.
That is also true, which we'll get to. Also, we know, back to the AFC, Pittsburgh is now in.
Yep, Pittsburgh handled their business.
So good on Big Ben for delivering. And then you have, now that the Colts are out, and you have Pittsburgh in, big game, and we'll end with the weekend's games with these, is Raiders and Chargers. Mm-hmm. What a game.
That is correct. What a game is indeed.
Down to the wire in OT, no less.
Yep. But the Raiders played it perfectly. They settled for a last-second field goal. Make or miss. They were going to the playoffs. They made. Chargers not going to the playoffs. Gets Big Ben in. So, good for Big Ben, but...
Do you see the Steelers team being a threat? Do you see the Las Vegas Raiders being a threat? They have come leaps and bounds since the middle of the season when we talked about them.
They're more of a threat than the Steelers, I believe, only because A, they've been playing extremely good, and B, look at who each team is playing, which we can get into in a little bit.
Of course. Let's bring this bad boy right now. So we have the first game on Saturday at 4:30 is the Raiders versus the Bengals. Bengals are at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you have Pittsburgh going to good old Arrowhead Sunday night.
So, just right off the bat, who do you think's got a better matchup there?
Obviously, the Raiders do, and how they've been playing, of course, does make a factor because you know that Mahomes and company over in Kansas City are definitely going to be bringing their A game. They obviously did not get the bye, even though they did win their game. So good on them for winning their game, but
They did, but the Titans won the day before, so they already knew they weren't getting the bye. So
Exactly. I'm just saying, good on them for you got that good mentality going forward, saying we're going to come, we're going to shut them down at home. Obviously, Pittsburgh, uphill climb, but we'll jump right into it with the Raiders and the Bengals. I think this could be an amazing game, actually. I think both teams could really bring the action. Bengals have looked good just as
good.
well, big thing with Burrow and Chase. You throw Mixon into the bunch, he could do some moves. You of course have Tyler Boyd who can have those big breakout games. So it could be anybody's game, I think. And with the Raiders coming off that last minute field goal, all energy and all resurgence in Derek Carr's leadership, I feel is in right over there with the Raiders. So I think this could be a huge game to kick off the playoffs. Oh, we lost Joey for a second. But yeah, I think this could be a huge game for the Raiders, of course. I'm going to just go here down. I believe that they
My computer is heading off apparently.
at least your video didn't shut off.
No, it's just because I hovered near the little fucking mouse area. It changed pages, which is cool. So
Gotta love it.
anyway,
You just missed me saying that I think this could be the great beginning of a playoff week, at least. I think both teams will definitely bring it come this week.
well,
Where you stand on the situation.
The big concern is that the Bengals' offensive line is not very good. So any team, the Raiders have Max Crosby, and he's an elite pass rusher, so he can affect this game. That'll be what the Raiders need to win, because Joe Burrow's not going to have all day to throw the ball 70 yards down the field to Chase, like has happened the last couple weeks, etc. So if the Raiders can form a pass rush, they can hang in this game. They don't have a great defense. Neither do the Bengals. The Bengals have an average defense, which is better than the Raiders' defense. Obviously, both teams have a pretty good offense. So this game will be whichever defense can play better will win this game. If Burrow has all day to pass the ball, then yes, his 17 wide receivers you named will all play a major factor. If not, then I don't know, because Joe Mixon, at the end of the day, his numbers look great, especially in fantasy purposes. But there's been Joe Mixon games where he's gotten 14 rushes for 28 yards, but gets 75 receiving yards or something to that effect. So if you don't have time to throw the ball and Joe Mixon's not running the ball, it's going to be extremely hard to win a game like that.
Duly noted. Yeah, I believe you're right. It's going to be tough. If Burrow can't get the pass down, I think that between good old Hunter could get the ball, make a difference. I think when it comes to the Raiders, plus like you said with the defense, and I think that this is going to be easily a touchdown to field goal game. I see it just like the Chargers, where it was that back and forth action. What's going to happen? Who's going to make the move? I think at the end of the day, I will say the Raiders will win this game. I feel like they're just such on a momentum shift where they're going in the right direction. Granted, it's going to be a tougher playoff schedule, obviously, as the week goes on. But for a first week matchup, I think this could be the Raiders' game to win.
It certainly could be. When all comes down to it, I don't think so, but it certainly could be. Like I said, if their O line needs to hold up, their O line holds up, they win the game.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Bengals won't be stopped. You'd be crazy to think that the Bengals are. Like I said, I think that all in all, like you said, it's going to come down to which defense steps up to the plate, which defense actually plays, and who's going to walk out of Cincinnati with the dub. And I stand by the Raiders being that team. We got next the Patriots versus the Bills. Bills are at home. This is your Saturday night game. Good
Mhm.
old coldness coming for us this
Correct.
weekend, sir.
They did dodge a snow at least though, so that won't play as much of an issue. Hopefully, unlike the one time they played in Buffalo, so we'll actually watch a football game and not, whatever that was. Buffalo needs to show why they're legit. Because I don't know about you or others, I don't think everybody's taking the Titans serious as a number one seed, as a threat, etc. Which means somebody else has to step up. So whether it's the Chiefs, the Bills, whoever, all have an opportunity. So here's phase one with Buffalo proving that they are a legit team and not just a regular season team that can put up fun numbers.
Well, you have Jones for a big playoff first year in the playoffs.
Yep.
So is that going to be daunting towards him? Or is he going to get two in his head when it comes to making these plays? Or do you think that Belichick will say, no, just keep it. You know what you're doing, kid. Relax and make the plays that need to be made. I think this game is going to come down to how Jones performs
Their
because I
entire
think,
offense will be that because what they'll do is that they'll. I don't want to say they'll baby him, but what a lot of teams do with the quarterbacks, you're in the playoffs now, so you've gotten there. You at this point, you're now. I'm pretty sure you played every game, so you're not a rookie anymore. You've played the games. They'll start off early, running the ball, trying to control the ball, take that pressure off him. And then if they get behind, that's where it'll become a problem. So if they stay in the game, say it's a one-score game either way at halftime, this is a game that the Patriots may take. If Jones comes out and looks like somebody who's nervous and scared and whatever, then like you said, it's a rookie. But we think everybody thinks highly of Belichick. This will prove what kind of genius he is. You've got a rookie quarterback in a playoff game. You know, can you game plan against a team that you've played twice already this season for him to succeed? That's what that's honestly that's what I want to see. This is Belichick's now first playoff without Tom Brady. It's his second season without Brady, but his first playoff without Tom Brady. And the way some teams are built, you can win without your quarterback. You got good defense, you got this, you got that. Go get it. So let's see what kind of game plan Belichick's got, and go from there. This is now Pete's turn to dip out, so I will carry on because I hate those two teams. I unfortunately closed the playoff matchups. I know Sundays two NFC and two AFC team. Two AFC. Sorry, two NFC, one AFC.
yeah, I'll bring it right back up. Sorry about that.
There you
Little bit of craziness. But
go. Oh,
no, I definitely think that this like you said, Bill Belichick's first game post Brady in the playoffs. You got a rookie quarterback. Granted, he's played games. We're not saying he hasn't, but this is definitely going to be a big matchup, and especially being in Buffalo cannot be understated, especially if it's cold, which it's probably going to be. It's really going to play into the Bills, and nobody's taking the Titans serious, and that's correct. Nobody thinks that the Titans were going to be the number one seed. Everybody was thinking it was going to be the Bills, it was going to be Kansas City. But the Titans are a legitimate force. But if you can have the Bills come in and say, no, we're somebody to contend with. We were in the AFC Championship last year. We are the team that is going to go all the way. I mean, those are big things that the Bills have to show. And I think against New England, you can show against a rookie quarterback who's inexperienced in the postseason. You got to step up and show why you're the team to beat. And I think this might be, dare I say, a good couple of touchdowns. I could see this being a 3 touchdown game.
Well, the big thing with these Saturday games are inexperienced playoff quarterbacks.
Agreed.
Burrow hasn't played in an NFL playoff game. I don't believe Carr has. We obviously know Mac Jones hasn't played an NFL playoff game, but Burrow and Jones played in national title games. And then Josh Allen has played in playoff games, so he's the only one with real experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a factor as well. But they still need to play up to par. Buffalo wasn't great down the stretch. They won some games, but they beat the Jets. There's one thing I know: you're not playing the Jets this week.
We have, I think Carr's been once now.
I thought so too, but that's why I didn't put it out there. Either
I
it's
think
one,
so too.
it's
I
one or
actually.
none. Either way, they were one and done, so it didn't
That's what
really
I want to
matter.
say. He was one done. I do remember a couple years back that I think he ended up making a slight little appearance. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think when you come to the postseason, it's going to be experience, and experience is going to be the driving factor. And that's why I think Josh Allen, you have good old Stephon Diggs, who, God forbid, has been in the postseason and screwed many teams over. So I think and of course, Singletary has been looking fantastic as of late. Definitely putting up points for fantasy. Obviously, fantasy over, but still putting in the work. So I think this is the Bills' game to take, and it's going to be it. I think it's going to come down to how Josh Allen handles the ball and how well Belichick's going to coach Jones in his first postseason matchup. And is Belichick really as great, like you said, as a head coach without Brady being his quarterback? If this was in New England, I would say this game would be much closer. It being in Buffalo, I think the Bills have this game.
They need to have this game, otherwise they're might be in for a little reorganization as well.
That is very fair. We got coming up for the Sunday games: Philly versus the Bucks.
Well, here's your big spread of the week. So
I mean, by all accounts, I think I don't know. I mean, with the injuries that Tampa has and the Eagles, second I believe second postseason for Hurts, Jalen Hurts, if I'm correct.
So we have an answer to the question before that.
With
The
Derek Carr,
Raiders made the playoffs in 2016. Derek Carr was hurt and did not play. So no, Derek Carr has zero playoff experience.
he was there in spirit. We have Tampa will steamroll through them.
I would think so because, well, here's the thing. So Tampa's banged up. Everybody in the world knows it.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely got a good matchup. They brought in John Brown to help their receiving core.
A smart pick.
Will he help? Possibly, just because he's a veteran. He can run his routes. He can make a big play. So, would he be a number one target? Absolutely not. Mike Evans would be. Would he be a number two target? Absolutely not. Rob Gronkowski should be. But, could he be that guy, that go to guy on third down? Absolutely as well. So,
Can get down the field as well.
just giving yourself somebody with experience. You see Tom Brady can work with receivers. Back end of the year with injuries, Brashad Perriman, who's bounced around on about 6 different teams in the last 3 years, scores a touchdown. The Jets game where they were losing, Brady throws a touchdown to some guy that nobody's probably ever heard of to win the game. So Tom Brady can make it work. You give him somebody with an ounce of talent, and he'll squeeze everything he can out of that ounce of talent at this point. So John Brown could, assuming, again, we're not here. Assuming he's in good shape, which they wouldn't have signed him if he wasn't, so you have to assume that he's in good enough shape to be able to play in a playoff game. He'll play. He may make a few catches. He could be just a third down specialist. I don't know what their plan is, but that would be very smart. Just because again, he's an established receiver. Scotty Miller was great last year in the playoffs for them. Didn't do much this year. Would you want to go down that road again? I think you'd rather have John Brown.
Agreed.
So, in that sense, the Eagles, I don't think could keep up with them offensively, just because Jalen Hurts is more of a running quarterback, so that takes more time to get down the field. So again, this is the biggest spread of the week, and I think it will live up to that. Where unless more guys get hurt, Tampa should be able to roll them.
Agreed. I hope, being that no shock here. I'm a Saints fan. I Tampa. You know what? I hate the Eagles even more because realistically, they started the knockout of the Saints out of the playoffs. But you have the weapons. Like I said, look at last week with Brady refusing to come out of the game until Gronk got his bonus, which I think was just. I mean, you could say what you want, but it just shows that Brady is a team player and he looks out for the guys who take care of him. You gotta remember
He's
earlier in
taking
the
care of his
season.
boys.
What?
Yeah, he's taking care of his boys.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Earlier
I
in the
feel
season,
like the Antonio Brown wah. Brady would have taken care of him too. That's why this whole Antonio Brown saga is a joke to me.
oh, of course.
He was hurt. Oh, he wasn't getting the targets. Oh, whatever it was, whatever it actually is, whatever, it's on him. He did come out and say that was a little stupid of him what he did, taking his shirt off and all that. But you know what? If the targets were the issue, I can promise you, as you've seen this past week, Tom Brady would have gotten it done for you.
Agreed.
Gronk only needed like 80 yards or 70 something yards, whatever it was. He had 185. He
It's a
had
little bit
100
more.
yards more than what he needed because Brady was trying to make sure he got the catches and the yards. It was never in doubt. So unless you got hurt, he was getting it. So that's why the whole Antonio Brown thing to me is a joke. And, his agent thinks that he's going to be signed by somebody. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. But
I believe that. I think you pissed off the GOAT. I mean, how do you go to another organization and not have that be taboo? It would be different if they were not a playoff contender team. If he was just like, fuck this, like I'm done with this team. But you are a high spot in people's minds to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, being that you have Tom Brady at the helm. So how do you do that? And how will other organizations look at him and be like, you know what? We understand. No, I think Antonio Brown is done in football, but that's just my personal opinion. If the Eagles win, it's going to be because of their defense, Joe. Is that true?
It's going to have to be. You're going to have to stop Brady. And you've seen of late, it can happen. The Jets held him down for the most part. There's no reason for it to be a 27-25 game against the Jets. The Jets defense is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So, it certainly could happen, but playoff football is different than
I was
regular
about to
season
say
football.
it's a different animal.
If you can't get a pass rush on Tom Brady, you're not going to win the game. The same thing we said about the other game, the Bengals. It's all about the pass rush. You need to be able to hit Brady, throw his timing off, etc. If you can't do that, there's no way. I know they're banged up and all that, but nobody's comparing Jalen Hurts to Tom Brady, especially in playoff atmosphere, things like that. So he knows how to navigate around it. If he has to throw the ball 2 yards down the field every single play to make this offense work because they have such a good pass rush, that's what'll happen. He's not going to stand back there, and take hits. They will adjust. They'll do whatever. They'll depending on what, because again, everybody's banged up. They could run in extra tackles, eligible tackles to make sure they're blocking and whatever else. So, yeah, well, that's what I mean. Hurts hasn't played an NFL playoff game, and when you get quarterbacks like that, they want to run. Their first instinct is to run, because they don't want to throw that pick. So run.
Can
Tampa
only
can
get you so
tackle him.
far.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, that keeps that clock moving. Which if they have a lead is a great thing. The less time Tom Brady has the ball, the better.
Do you think that if the Eagles have a lead, do you think that good old Jalen is going to run the ball himself.
No, I think they'll try and use the running backs. Play it smart. They have experience. Assuming Howard plays, stuff like that. I haven't really looked at their injury report, but they have running backs. I'm not saying they're Jonathan Taylors of the world, but they have running backs, and especially if Jordan Howard plays, he has playoff experience, which is big. So yeah, he'll run the ball on options, but what I'm saying is every pass play will not, in the regular season broke down to, okay, I dropped back, whoever was my number one wasn't open, I ran. Playoffs, that's not going to work. So will that be it? I'm sure the coaches will try to keep them away from that and be like, hey, look at progression 1, look at progression 2, maybe progression 3, get rid of the ball, throw it away. But obviously, you can be said so many things, and then if you do them or not, I can tell you to do one thing, and you don't do it. I can't control that. So once it's out there, Jalen Hurts is the one out on the field, not the coaches. So whatever, if his instinct takes over or whatever, that's what's going to happen. And if you're the coaches, you have to work around that to have a chance. So if you see, it's early in the game and he's already possibly panicking or whatever, pulling the ball down and running, you're going to have to work with that and give him quick reads so that he can do that, because it's playoff football. You're not going to have 10 seconds to stand back there and dance around and throw the ball. Pocket collapses, you either need to get out, throw it away, whatever. You need to do something. You can't wait all day for something to happen.
Agreed. So I think we're unanimous that the Bucs will probably win this game. San Fran versus the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is home.
Mm-hmm.
God, I'm hoping beyond hope, ladies and gentlemen, that the Dallas Cowboys massacre San Fran.
Well, your anger to this is that they knocked you out. Realistically, the Rams knocked you out. B, you wouldn't have played Dallas, so if you had one.
No, so, I get that.
So those two things,
Of course. But I do think that Dallas, I believe, will win this game.
I woke up to a text this morning, and I'm looking at the multiple texts, but it is there. This is a game where you take San Francisco on the money line, meaning, then this is from Pro Football Focus. Those guys, obviously they talk football as well.
Mm-hmm.
They think that San Fran is pulling this upset because they're saying to take the money line. So Pro Football Focus is driving that 49er wagon, and a bunch of other people, it sounds like, are as well. This seems to be the one game that could possibly be an upset. It's a 3-6. So, but by upset, 4-5. If the 4, if the 5 beats the 4, that's not really an upset. Whereas we just talked about the 7-2. We, nobody thinks the Eagles are beating the Bucs, so that that ain't an upset.
Agreed.
So this is the first one where it could possibly be an upset. 49ers win, and then assuming the 7 seed, which we said doesn't win, that means the 49ers would be headed up to Green Bay. But obviously we'll see.
I do agree though that it couldn't go either way. Not shitting on San Fran. Debo was absolutely a pivotal point for their game. He was the playmaker, and it could easily go either way. I feel like Dallas has looked good, but both teams are great. So it ends up being that who's the one that who's the one that falters, should we say?
Well, here's what it'll come down to again. It's just like probably going to every other game. Dallas has a pretty good pass rush. So does San Fran. So that should even themselves out. Obviously, Jimmy is a Cowboy fan, so we talk about this, etc. I've told him since that they need to find a way to stop Debo. So finding a way to stop Debo may take away from your pass rush because one of your best pass rushers is the rookie Mike Parsons. You may have to use him differently to try and slow down Debo, which then will take away from your pass rush. Whereas San Fran is sitting here with they have Bosa.
That's what I said. Who do you think right now is going to be the difference maker? Because I think it's going to be between those two.
Well, it's going to have to be, but my point is that they're not taking Bosa out of pass rushing to stop someone else. They're not, we have to pull Bosa out of pass rush to stop CeeDee Lamb, something like that. That's not the way it's going to work. Where Dallas may have to use Parsons differently to counterbalance Debo Samuel. On paper, absolutely, Dallas is a much better offense. They got the running backs, they've got the receivers. Yeah, San Fran's obviously got a better tight end, and singular have Debo Samuel, but they force you into bad things. There's good and there's bad. We saw what happened in that game against the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, there's good and there's bad. There's good Jimmy G, there's bad Jimmy G. That's a lot of what may affect this game. Because I think both teams will pass rush. So that'll affect the outcomes of plays, obviously. You saw Jimmy G throw a horrible interception, and you're like, well, what else is new? But then you saw Jimmy G lead them back and end up forcing overtime. So you got, you get the flip of the coin. You're getting good Jimmy G, you're getting bad Jimmy G. What are you landing on? And you need a full game of Jimmy G. You can't have that Jekyll and Hyde like you did last week.
Yep.
It's a regular season game. This is a playoff game. You need 4 quarters of good Jimmy G. Otherwise, yeah, they have no chance. I love how they work their running game, but I don't love San Fran's running game. I know getting Debo involved, I love that aspect. And I don't love Ezekiel Elliott, but again, Ezekiel Elliott's an experienced running back, and Pollard backing him up does his thing. So overall, Dallas is the better ground attack. I trust them more. So I need San Fran to show that, whether it's Debo, Mitchell's got to show up, George Kittle's got to show up, whatever it is that they need to force Dallas to have to be one-dimensional to give themselves a chance to win that game. Because if you make it Dallas only be able to pass, like we just said, Bosa can get to the quarterback. Those boys can get to the quarterback. And that takes pressure off, the secondary, because if you're getting a pass rush, it means they got to throw earlier, you jump the routes, whatever. Put your team in a good play, put your team in give them a chance to win, and this certainly could be the upset of the week.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, Bosa is a fantastic pass rusher, and it ends up being that, you have Zeke and Tony Pollard, which both respectable running backs. And then on the other side, you have Debo. But I think that a main factor of this game is going to be George Kittle. I think that he's been quiet, but I think that this is his game to step into the limelight and be Jimmy G's fucking right-hand man. I believe Jimmy G's finger is still like an issue.
Yeah, he has got a tear. It didn't heal in a week, so that's definite. But he played with it, and like I said, you saw he was able to still throw the ball.
Yep, and that's what I was going to. So I don't think that's going to affect, but it's that Jekyll and Hyde thing. He has to stay constant. This is the playoffs. You need to go on all front and just put your best out there. And I think that Dallas, bar none, has looked incredible this whole year. And yes, you've had some mishaps with Dallas, but for the most part, they have been looking like a strong team. And being home, it's that home field. The Dallas is going to be ready for action. So, in my personal opinion, you said, and I agree, this could go either way, but I will give the edge to the Cowboys. I think this game is by 10.
But like you said, Kittle needs to be a factor. If Dallas is pass rushing, that's going to take away from him, because they're going to need, and maybe not necessarily him, but they're going to need to keep a tight end in the block, which then changes the passing game. So if they can find a way to block Parsons and that pass rush, then yeah, they give themselves a real chance. You just say the same thing about both teams. You can stop the pass rush, you're probably going to win this game. This is one of the more balanced games. I see. I don't see playing in a dome or in warm weather as a home field advantage outside of the crowd noise.
Yeah, of course.
So, it being in Dallas doesn't do anything for me. There's no. It's not Buffalo where you're dealing with cold and wind and
Yeah.
whatever. It's not Lambeau where it's nasty. You're playing indoors. There's no distinct advantage to that. So I really don't know. Starting the week, I thought Dallas would win. I'd probably lean towards them winning, but I would not at all, and I don't think anybody else would be if San Fran wins this game. I don't think anybody would be shocked.
I feel like this could be at least. I mentioned it at the top. The Raiders versus the Bengals, I think, will be the AFC game to watch. I do think that San Fran Dallas will be the NFC game to watch. I think either team can win. I think they're going to bring it their all, and it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. Like you said, again, being in a dome, but I feel Dallas with that crowd, they're going to be hyped as fuck being in the playoffs, looking as good as they are. I hope for Dallas, but I would not be surprised if San Fran pulls out the dub.
Yeah, I really don't think anybody would be.
Final game we have. Oh, sorry. My apologies. We have Pittsburgh versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Final Sunday game,
Sunday
yes.
night.
Final Sunday game, yep.
I mean,
well, is it Big Ben's last game?
that's the question.
Just simply is what it is. I don't want to say though they need a miracle to make it happen because they got a miracle to get into playoffs.
Yep.
How many miracles can you have?
That's one team.
Yeah, one time in one season, etc. I mean, I don't know. Ben not being able to throw the ball deep down the field, and I mean like deep down the field to exploit matchups is gonna be tough. Again, talked to Matt after bowling for a bit. We were talking about how the Bengals exploited the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs started slow. We all knew that. At one point, they were in last place in the division. They righted the ship. The defense started playing better. They got hot. Almost got the 1 seed. So they got back to normal. But the Bengals exploited them with deep passes. Ben can't do that. And, so this is a game where you will actually have a chance. Yes, they have a little bit of a pass rush, but Ben will actually have time to throw the ball. But will he be able to?
How far will that throw be?
Obviously, if you put me out on a football field right this minute, I could throw a ball 10 yards down the field. Can Ben make the crisp 20-yard throw? Can he make a double move? And I'm not saying a 60-yard throw, but can he make a 30-yard throw?
Yeah.
Is that like his max range where he could throw a ball 30 yards down the field successfully? We don't know. That's what we need to see. Obviously, he's got the weapons.
That's what I was going to say. You get that ball to Johnson, he can score that touchdown.
Yeah, Johnson's a weapon. Freemuth's been a weapon. The other guys, when healthy, have all been weapons. Rookie running back end of the year has been great, but again, this is the playoffs. This is a different animal. He needs to take his game back to what he did earlier in the year. So you have the pieces. Do you have enough to make an upset? I really don't think so because, again, every year the last few years, the AFC's gone through the Chiefs, and even though they're not the 1 seed, you still got to go through the Chiefs. And Mahomes and all that. So
I believe there's too many weapons on the Chiefs. I think
there certainly is.
It's too much of an uphill climb. And congrats, Pittsburgh. Really, congrats for making it in. And Big Ben, I hope at least you have a decent game. But we're down to the nitty-gritty where you need to perform. And Big Ben, you are not the performer that you once were. Years ago, absolutely, I would take you any day in a playoff challenge type scenario. But going against the Chiefs, it's going to be too much, I think. And yeah, your players have been looking good, like we said, Johnson, and the rookie running back, and of course other players to that factor. But I think that the Chiefs, and when we said that they were looking dirt shitty, they were able to readjust, get their defense in order, get their head on straight. Mahomes is like, I am going to lead us, and that they did, almost getting to the number one
Yeah,
spot.
I'm.
So,
I believe they were 3-4 at one point. So
so it's something where, in a similar vein to the Las Vegas Raiders, really just getting and honing in and saying, no, we are the team. We got to show people why we are the team. And I think that they are the AFC favorites, even though the Titans, and we've talked about it, are not being taken as seriously as I think they should be taken, and as you think so as well. Ryan Tannehill is a good quarterback, but I think the Chiefs are just going to be too hot to handle for Pittsburgh. I think the Chiefs are going to just ease. This is going to be the Tampa Philly of the AFC for me.
More than likely, I was sort of run this. So as we're saying, so Titans are the one.
Mm-hmm.
We think the playoffs go through the Chiefs. The Super Bowl champions are also not the one, but have Green Bay over there. So it's harder to say with the NFC because they always say you got to dethrone the defending champs, and the defending champs are still alive. They made the playoffs. So normally you would say that the playoffs go through them, but Green Bay has been legit this year.
I would argue that Green Bay is the best team out of all these teams.
But you
On
certainly
paper.
could, and they looked it. They were the one seed for a reason.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, as the NFC, you got the defending champs
Mm-hmm.
and Green Bay over there. Where the AFC, you're sitting here, okay, we have Mahomes and the Chiefs. Not nobody. Most people aren't thinking that the AFC goes through the Titans.
I agree.
A lot of people think the AFC is going through the Chiefs, and that's better for the overall psyche for the AFC teams. Because say you're that Raiders game, you're the Raiders and you pull the upset, and now you go play the Titans. Feels a lot better than going. Even though the Raiders play the Chiefs tough, it seems a lot better. Because again, this is playoff football. It seems a lot better having to play the Titans than it does. Because you don't know. I'm 100% sure, and next week we can talk about this, that Derrick Henry will play. But how effective will Derrick Henry be? So those things look a lot better when you're matching up against that. Mahomes is MVP quarterback. Ryan Tannehill's not. Where at least if you go the NFC, Tom Brady's an NFL quarterback Super Bowl champion. Aaron Rodgers is an MVP and a Super Bowl champion. They're more on par than Mahomes and Tannehill.
I think what you're getting at is, of course, no disrespect, of course, to the AFC, but you have just so many stacked teams in the NFC playoff picture. I mean, you're looking at a broken down, grizzled old man in Big Ben.
Yep.
You have Derek Carr, going to be his first playoff game, which we talked about earlier. Yeah, the Raiders were in years ago, but first Derek Carr playoff game. You have Burrow. You have all these factors of, okay, if you're looking at the AFC factor of everything, the Chiefs are the top tier talent, and I think they're gonna show that they're gonna show that this Sunday. I think they're gonna put a statement saying, yeah, we may be the second, just like Tampa over there. Yeah, Tampa has Green Bay, but we're gonna stamp and show why we are the team to beat.
Mm-hmm. And being the number 2 seed is, if there is an upset, especially as we talked about in the AFC, if somebody does upset the Titans, you're now the highest seed with the 2, so you have home field advantage.
Mm-hmm. And that could be big come towards the end.
Yep.
Our final game, and one I'm very, very excited for. It's probably my most excited game, to be honest, is the Arizona Cardinals versus the Rams.
Okay, well, again, either way, whichever team was home here, you're playing indoors. So again, the weather won't be a factor. Even if the game wasn't indoors, it's California or it's Arizona. There wasn't going to be snow. There wasn't going to be any of those things. So weather probably wouldn't have played much of a factor either way. But it's indoors, so I'll go back to the same thing I said. The crowd is the factor. How much of a factor? I think they'll get loud, but again, the players play on the field. The good players can drown all that out.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to will to win. Cardinals banged up. Supposedly both running backs are playing, so that helps. They didn't look great down the stretch. Had a shot at winning the division. Lost to Seattle. So I know how much you love Kyler Murray, but I can say the same negatives towards Matt Stafford. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't win to win the division. They lost as well. Matt Stafford has that knack of being a gunslinger, a la Brett Favre, who I believe has the record still for most interceptions. I'm not saying Stafford's going to break that record, but I'm just saying is the gunslingers have that knack for throwing interceptions. And I think I talked about it a couple weeks ago. They showed a stat, and as bad as Jared Goff is, in his entire tenure, I believe, with the Rams, he threw one career pick six, and Matt Stafford threw four this season
Yep. You said that
alone.
last week on the show.
Yeah, so if he just happens to pull one of those moments where he just, throws the ball off for grabs instead of taking a sack and throws a pick six, that can obviously alter this game. So I need Matt Stafford to play smart. It's playoff football. If you have to take a sack at this point, you have to take a sack. I'll take a sack over throwing a pick six or
Of course.
anything like that. So I think this game's going to come down to quarterbacks. Honestly,
And I agree with that
we know the
100%.
teams have the weapons. So whichever quarterbacks play smarter. We know Murray will run. We know Stafford probably won't run. So who can do that? Again, like I said, both Arizona running backs are banged up. And then you turn it over to the Rams where Cam Akers is probably going to play. He hasn't played all year. Henderson's hurt. So it's really going to be really hard to trust the running backs. So that's what I'm saying is this game's going to put a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks. So which one plays better, I think will factor. Again, it's a 4-5 matchup, so it's two teams that are evenly
Oh yeah, of
matched
course.
essentially. So we know you want to say Kyler Murray's going to win by
I do.
8 touchdowns.
You know me so well. No, I think you are absolutely correct that it's going to be the quarterbacks who make this game. But the thing that worries me about Stafford is look at last week. Obviously, the Rams did not have to win the game to be the number 2. That was obvious.
Yep.
But that last play where he threw it, it was such a bad throw. And you can't do that in playoff football.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think that I believe whoever gets the lead to start the game will be the winner of this game. I think whoever comes out and gets that first touchdown, those first points on the board, I think will dictate and be able to have the game in their hands. And whether that be the Rams side where Cooper Kupp gets a nice deep pass and gets a touchdown, or if you go to AJ Green and AJ Green suits down for Kyler Murray, or he runs it in himself. I think it ends up going to be that which quarterback gets the touchdown, gets the field goal. Obviously, not the quarterbacks who got the field goal. Who brings them down to get the points for the field goal? Who is the one who's going to control the clock? Who is going to control the game? You're absolutely right, and it could be either of them. Right? For me, I wouldn't even be able to pick. I would love to say the Cardinals will win by 75 points. You know I do, but I can't. I honestly think that whichever team wins was the better team on that day, bar none.
The one real thing that may hurt 2 weeks ago, even last week, JJ Watt will be back for the playoffs. JJ Watt will be back for the playoffs. JJ Watt will be back for the playoffs. It's Thursday. It's 7:30 on Thursday right now. JJ Watt was very limited at practice today. I know they got the last game, the Monday, so they have a little extra time. But we're sitting here on a Thursday where JJ Watt is very limited. He hasn't been added to the active roster yet. So obviously, first step is him being activated to be able to play in this game. If he's very limited, even if he gets activated, he may only be, like a third down pass rusher. Yes, that could be better than what they had, but how much, Is J.J. Watt at 60% going to be a big enough factor in this game? I don't know. If J.J. Watt at 100%,
He would
man,
be the difference
big,
maker.
big, big difference because we know
Mhm.
what Arizona could have with that. We do know what the Rams have. We know they have Von Miller. We know they have Aaron Donald, and then on the back end, we know they have Jalen Ramsey. So, you need that J.J. Watt star power to possibly take over a game, pressure Stafford into making bad throws, stuff like that. J.J. Watt at 60, 70%. I don't know if he could muster up enough to be a game changer, especially if he's only playing on, say, third downs.
Let me give you a hypothetical here, sir.
Go ahead.
Saturday afternoon, they
Yep.
activate him.
Mm-hmm.
He's 80% there. Does Arizona win if he plays? Do you think at 80% that he could make that much of a difference? Or like you said, does Von Miller and Aaron Donald, who is one of the best defensive players in the league, could you have to if JJ Watt is 80%, you have to play him. But the question is he a difference maker enough against this defense of the Rams?
I'm going to go with no, mostly because we're talking about injuries. DeAndre Hopkins is not playing.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen the hit that the Cardinals offense took without DeAndre Hopkins. So now you're telling me they got no DeAndre Hopkins, two banged up running backs against, mostly a full go Rams defense. I just don't know. Yeah, AJ Green's got experience, but he's not the playmaker he was. Christian
Yep.
Kirk's had a great year. Finally, everybody's been high on him. He's finally starting to show. But even so, if you take that step back and just compare it to the other side, are you taking AJ Green and Christian Kirk over Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham? I know
No,
Robert Woods is
absolutely.
hurt. I'm well aware Robert Woods is hurt, and that's big in its own right. But you got Cooper Kupp. Even so, if you dumb it down, are you taking AJ Green and Christian Kirk over just Cooper Kupp? Probably not. So, the only real advantage, and it's not even a huge advantage, where I see is tight end Zach Ertz over Higbee. And like you're saying, is that's a slight one. The fact that Hopkins won't be able to play and Watt, I don't even know if he would even be at 80%. So having those, missing those two, I don't think they have enough. Yeah, it looks like a game that should be balanced, but if you're looking at it on paper and healthy and all that, the Rams so much better off, it seems. So
I
even
agree
if
with
Watt was at 80%, no, I don't think the Cardinals would win the game. It would help, of course, but I just don't think they have enough to win the game. Kyler Murray needs to have a signature game where he just goes out there and he goes like 27 of 31 with 5 touchdowns, and they
Which,
hold that
to be
ball.
fair, is very realistic.
It is, but again, you're down weapons.
I
It's a
know.
lot. It's a lot easier to do that with DeAndre Hopkins playing.
1% in playoff challenge for AJ
Hopkins,
Green. People
oh
taking him.
yeah,
I know. I'm
because
in
there's
that 1%.
not a lot of trust. They already have a bad matchup to start.
Mm-hmm.
And then them being the 5 seed, unless there's an upset, they go to Green Bay right after. So, I mean, yes, we talked about that. San Fran could beat Dallas, but if Dallas wins and the Cardinals win, Cardinals going to Lambeau. Yes, cool. That's an extra week. Say JJ Watt doesn't play. That maybe now you get JJ Watt at 90% the next week. Sure, that helps. But A, you got to win this game. And then B, you still need these guys to get healthy. I don't know what. I just know Hopkins isn't playing, but I don't know what number they put on him. Like, hey, he could play next week or not. When he originally got hurt, it sounded like he wouldn't be back at the earliest until the second playoff game. So, and that being the earliest, so he might not even be able to play. So now you're sitting here just telling me you're going to beat the Rams at mostly full strength, and then Aaron Rodgers. Seems extremely unlikely.
You're going with the Rams. That's where I'm getting from this.
Yeah, I have to take the Rams. They have the best receiver in football. the much better defense.
Since
Yeah,
I
they
hate every single NFC team except for one, Arizona, make me proud, guys, and go all the way. And
hmm
that's where I stand. That will be our divide and conquer. So those are the playoff games coming up. Of course, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We'll have the results next week on the show. But you guys start watching us because of fantasy. So,
hmm
without further ado, who was the fantasy champion of 2021 into 2022? Do you want to go by quarterbacks? Do you want to do wide receiver and just go down the list? Because I
No,
have
we're
my wide
we're
receiver,
we're
I have my
gonna
running
keep it
back.
broad. We're gonna keep it broad because then we'll be here for the rest of our lives. So, oh, this guy did this and this guy did that. Up
Well,
until about a week and a half ago, Jonathan Taylor was the obvious
of course.
answer, but then we saw what happened to the Colts the last couple games. So maybe that opened the door to somebody.
And
Did
that
it open
somebody
the
is
door to somebody?
Devontae Adams.
Is it Devontae Adams?
This man, let me tell you something about Devontae Adams, sir. I drafted him in fantasy, and my God, did that man do greatness for me. I mean, I think out of all the weeks I had him, he maybe had one bad week, but you're looking at a man producing 15 plus points a week. I think the last couple weeks he had 33 points, and I will check it on my phone right now.
I
I
already got
think
it up, so you don't go crazy.
what?
I said I already had it up, so don't go crazy.
Oh, I go crazy for Devontae Adams. I think when it comes at least to wide receivers, he will be. And I'm not saying anything against Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Cooper Kupp is in the discussion. I'm not saying he's not. But I think for fantasy purposes, I think Devontae Adams mixed in with Aaron Rodgers, I think there was no better duo. You look at Gronk and Brady. You look at Brady with Godwin, Evans. No, I think Rodgers and Devontae Adams just had a connection where I don't think many people in fantasy you went against that team in fantasy with Rodgers and Devontae Adams. You were shitting your pants that week in fantasy football. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen.
So just going off of basics. So Cooper Kupp had the most fantasy points for non-quarterbacks.
Okay.
I'm just looking at my league just because
No, fair,
it's
fair.
simple. So he was a 4th-round pick. I know Devontae Adams missed some games. I think he missed one game, but still,
I
Devontae
want to say
Adams
he missed two.
was a first round pick, I believe. He was a first-round pick. So
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp got picked 3 rounds later and outscored him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you know where this is going. So that's great value. 4th-round pick over the first-round pick. Deebo Samuel was an 8th-round pick and was the 3rd highest fantasy scorer. And he also missed a game, at least one game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the value in that is what you really want to see. Like I took Jonathan Taylor in the 2nd round. He was the 2nd highest scorer. But he was up there.
Mm-hmm.
Deebo Samuel was not up there. I'm just going past some other ones to give you options. Justin Jefferson was up there, but he was a 3rd-round pick. The next best option may be this one right here. Jamar Chase was a 7th-round pick, so he was drafted ahead of Deebo Samuel and didn't
Mm-hmm.
match his numbers. So I think if I were to pick my MVP, it would be Deebo Samuel. I love Jonathan Taylor as well.
I think for running backs, he is the obvious choice.
Even with that, though, I don't know. I would take James Conner because, again, at that value, James Conner, you didn't know what you had with him.
That is fair.
And he came out there and he put up 15 touchdowns and finished year ranked 29. Like, nobody was expecting that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No,
To
we
have a
could have said,
resurgence, no less, coming
yeah,
from
exactly. Coming
Pittsburgh.
off the year he had the year before, it was atrocious.
Well,
You know, I,
you know what it always reminds me of, and I'm blanking on the name. Years ago, you drafted him, and then he was a juggernaut as a running back. I can't think of the name. That's going to kill me. And then you drafted him, and he legit shit the bed. You didn't draft him the following year, and then he went off again.
Oh, I've had
Please.
that multiple times.
Oh God, why can't I? Oh man, to kill me. I want to say he was on the Rams, but I'm not sure. Oh
Nah, I'd never take Todd Gurley. But
no. Oh,
I
Todd.
I
Yeah,
get
Todd Gurley back in the day. I believe you took him,
I
and he was
get
a
that
bust.
with I get that with Joe Mixon. Every time I take Joe Mixon,
Yeah,
he
I was
gets
gonna wait
hurt or
for
is
that.
horrible. Then when I don't take Joe Mixon, he goes off.
I
You know,
think the not to cut you off. I think wide receivers were the MVPs for fantasy this year.
they
Usually it
certainly
goes to
were.
running backs, but I think wide receivers, you have your pick of the litter when it comes. If you're in a keeper league, you have options there.
You do. Here's the big one, and the only reason why I want to go position by position. Mark Andrews outscored Tyreek Hill.
Really?
Yes. And I know how well I was usually high on Mark Andrews as well.
I
Think
was
about
like,
that. Lamar Jackson didn't play what the last 5 games or whatever the regular season, and Mark Andrews outscored Tyreek Hill by 11.1 fantasy points.
to be fair, I think Hill was out a couple of games.
Yeah, okay, but still, okay.
No,
So
I know. I'm just
Hill
saying.
had 159 targets. Andrews had 153. Hill had 111 catches. Andrews had 107. Mark Andrews had more receiving yards than Tyreek Hill. They both had 9 touchdowns.
That's surprising.
Mark Andrews had 1361 receiving yards, and Tyreek Hill had 1239, and he is one of the fastest players in football. And Mark Andrews out receiving yards him with a backup and a backup to the backups quarterback throwing him the ball the last few weeks of the season.
So is he that number one tight end next year for you?
You know who you got up there. You've got like 4, 5, sometimes 6. This year, the top guys outside of Mark Andrews did not have a great year.
That's what I was going to go
Waller's
with.
dealing with his things. But Kelsey didn't have a great year.
Kittle. You really didn't hear big games
Yeah,
from him?
Kittle did not have a big year. Yeah, you still got to draft those guys. Andrews was consensus the number 4 this year. It was Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Andrews for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So does he become the 2 now? I think so. I don't know if he'll get the 1. I don't know if he'll overtake Kelsey just yet.
But he's definitely moving up.
But is he the tight end 2? That's more than reasonable. Much more than reasonable.
So we talked about a couple of running backs. We talked about some receivers. Obviously, we just finished up on tight ends. I think how we'll end this little who is your fantasy champion, we'll just briefly talk about quarterbacks. Do you think that Tom Brady was your pick for quarterback this year?
As the number 1 quarterback?
Yeah. You took him, and I know you just love Tom Brady as a person, but do you think he was the reason why you won a lot of games? Was he your fantasy quarterback?
Well, in that league, almost all my guys got hurt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So is he the reason why? Absolutely. Because he was the one steady I had in my lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Led the league in touchdowns. Didn't throw a ton of picks. Aaron Rodgers only threw 4. Nobody else is really on that level. That's a different level.
Mm-hmm.
But Tom Brady only threw 12. It's not like Tom Brady threw 30 picks. It wasn't like an Eli Manning where he threw 30 touchdowns and 30 picks. He only threw 12. So it's not like he was sabotaging it there. In my league, he was the 3rd highest scoring quarterback, behind Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert outscored him by 1.02.
Well,
So
that
you
was
could
going to be my.
you could argue either way with that. So he was the 2nd or 3rd best quarterback. He had 5 more touchdowns than Herbert, 3 less interceptions, but Herbert ran for 302 yards and Tom Brady ran for 81. So you ain't getting a run game out of Tom Brady.
No.
But from a quarterback standpoint, he threw for the most yards, he threw for the most touchdowns. He didn't throw a ton of interceptions. Out of the quarterbacks I had, absolutely, because I had Brady, I had Mahomes, I had Allen, and then I had a musical door of quarterbacks in my league. Was he the one? Yeah, and for the team that had him on where everybody got hurt, absolutely. If I didn't have Tom Brady, I wouldn't have stood a chance in that league. Like if I just dumbed it down to say like I had
Lamar Jackson.
yeah, but we know he was hurt at the end of the year. I was gonna say like a Stafford. I don't think Stafford would have carried me to, wins. Yeah, he did his part, but he didn't have. I'm just taking a peek.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Tom Brady had 8 weeks of 30 plus points. Stafford had 0.
Yeah, but well, that was my argument to you earlier when we started fantasy. I can't trust him. Yeah, he's on a good team, but the man doesn't produce points. But when
But
you
he
have
was
somebody
the
like
number
Josh
7 ranked
Allen,
fantasy player, realistically. It's just like his floor and his ceiling are much different. Like if you have Matt Stafford, you're gonna say, okay, he's getting me 22 points.
mm-hmm.
And for the most part, that's what it is. Tom Brady had the New Orleans game obviously wasn't very good for Tom Brady. He had 5 fantasy points. But the game against Miami, Tom Brady went 30 for 41 for 411 and 5 touchdowns. So yes, the floor was 5 points and the ceiling was 40 points, but realistically, Tom Brady had 7 other games where he scored 30 points and Matt Stafford had 0. So yeah, you're going to get consistency, but you're going to get those big games where a quarterback may win you the week. We talked about the Chiefs. Mahomes had a real slow start. So, Mahomes had 8 points against Tennessee, 8 points against Dallas, 13 against Denver. Those are not what you're expecting out of a quarterback that you probably drafted high.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So they all have that bad game, but Mahomes as well. 33.2, 39.2, 34.6. He had those huge games. So yeah, that's what you want. And like I'm saying, is Tom Brady had eight games of 30 plus points. So yeah, I would take Tom Brady. And from where I'm drafting Tom Brady as opposed to where Mahomes and Allen and all them went, absolutely.
I would concur, and that's why I asked you a question. I figured that Tom Brady would be the answer to that quarterback question. I mean, the man still got it. And like I said, he might bring us all the way to the Super Bowl again. But you know how that we'll know that, sir?
How's that?
By coming here every Thursday at 6:30 here on Facebook, over on YouTube. You got the good old Twitterverse over there as well. Every Thursday 6:30 we'd break down the playoff games. We're going to tell you who to watch out for, who to play, who to be rooting for. I want to thank you, sir, for always joining me.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think it was a great show. I have to catch a movie, but I appreciate everybody for watching. I hope your team wins. I hope Arizona Cardinals destroy the Rams by 87 points. And there it is, sir.
There it is. Nailed it.
Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. Peace.